Well, hello, Jane Fonda. What an honor it is to speak to you.
And I'm honored
Thank you.
to be in front of you, Fran, the president of my union.
Thank you. Well, you know, welcome to Actor, and congratulations on the SAG Life Achievement Award.
I so appreciated it.
Well deserved.
It really
Well
meant
deserved.
the world to me.
You have such an amazing, really unbelievable career. And I don't even know if you realize, because you're you, so you're in your life, but for somebody that's looking at you, it's just an unbelievable career that you have had, and life, as both somebody that's been so socially aware and unafraid to stand your ground, to speak your piece, as well as being so accomplished, not only as an actor, for which you've won 2 Academy Awards, which is phenomenal achievement, but also as a producer, because you were involved in, you produced 9 to 5 and China Syndrome, right?
Well, I was working with a partner,
Okay.
Bruce Gilbert and I, and it was a Mike Douglas. It was his project that we moved into. It was going to be 3 guys in it. And I replaced, I can't remember, but it was a guy who decided he didn't want to be in it, and I replaced him.
Wow.
Yeah. And then my company became one of the producers.
Oh, that's great. And is that how it went down for 9 to 5 too?
9 to 5 was my idea, and my company produced it. Bruce Gilbert does most of the producing work. Usually how it went was I would come up with an idea, and then he would make it happen.
I love rom-com. So the first time I ever saw Barefoot in the Park, I love that movie so much. I must have watched it a million times.
Yeah.
And I loved you so much. I wanted to be you. I wanted to look like you. I knew I could never look like you, but I wanted to look like you. And with the handsome husband, and everything was just so amazing. And it was just the most charming movie, but yet your character was growing as a human being in it. And the whole thing I absolutely loved. And I still am a rom-com real fan. I mean, that's like my favorite kind of movie. I like feel-good movies. However, you definitely reached a point in your career where you ended up doing very dramatic movies. And so what would you say was the first turning point that allowed you to explore parts of yourself that were more challenging emotionally?
Well, I made my first movie. I hated the experience so much. It was called Tall Story. It was a stupid movie. It was co-starring Anthony Perkins, who I liked a lot, but it was a stupid movie, and I thought, I'm not going to do this anymore. I hated always having to worry about how you look and all that, and so that was it. I wasn't going to come back. But my second movie, I got offered. It was called Walk on the Wild Side, opposite Barbara Stanwyck and Baxter and Lawrence Harvey, Capucine, and I played a hobo, on trains during the Depression, a bum, and I became a prostitute in the house run by Barbara Stanwyck. I mean, who's going to turn that down?
Nobody.
It was a real character. So I thought, okay, I can dig my teeth into this, and from then on I really liked it. Not too much. I didn't really start liking it until I was doing my own movies. I didn't produce Clute, and I did enjoy doing that, although I wanted to do it.
Is it hard to be in pain, like, for example, in They Shoot Horses, Don't They? I mean, that's a very constant kind of emotional space you have to be in.
And I didn't have...
Is it draining?
Yeah. I wouldn't have to do this now, but at the time, I just didn't even go home. I just stayed in the studio. And before we started, I spent 4 days dancing without stopping with red buttons. We hallucinate. We, had the whole thing. I really kind of stayed in character. Also, my marriage was falling apart, so it wasn't too difficult to stay at the studio. But it was also fun. I'd never been in a movie that truly reflected something about my society. And it was really, I was starting to pay attention then. And I enjoyed it very much. It was the first time, I think that was probably the first deep thing I did.
Oh, it's unbelievable. I mean, your face. But I would be remiss if I didn't bring up Grace and Frankie, because it's such a successful series. And you're so marvelous in it, both you and Lily. And I'm just curious to know, because it's such a refreshing dynamic for older women, such a beautiful way to explore the life experience of a more mature couple of girlfriends. And I'm just wondering, was that the thing that drew you to it? Because all too often I find that the elder character in a sitcom is the butt of the joke. And I detest that. I never write that way. But certainly in your series, it's really noticeable, refreshingly noticeable. So is that very important? And do you play a hand in making sure it stays like that?
I had just written a book called Primetime about aging. And so it was very fresh in my body and my mind. But Marta Kaufman, she was the co-creator of Friends, and she created Grace and Frankie. It was the first episodic television that I'd ever done. I'd been a guest star, but I'd never done a show like that. And she knows what to do. She knows what audiences need. I can't believe... I had a blast doing it, but I can't believe when I travel the world, the people all over the world say to me, especially women, it saved my life, it saved my sister's life. I watch it with my granddaughter. We never thought young people would be interested in it. It was all Marta Kaufman and the wonderful writers that she hired. It was a fascinating process to watch. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, because you hadn't really been involved.
No, it was a whole new thing for me.
And that's really my milieu. And I, in real life, have a gay ex-husband. So we did a series wrote and produced a series called Happily Divorced. And seeing, your relationship in your series, having a gay ex-husband and remaining happily divorced, is a beautiful relationship, I think, to explore. So for many different reasons, I think that it was a triumph, that series. And you and Lily were remarkable.
Thanks, yeah. We're close. We love each other.
That's so evident.
Her partner of 50 years is also named Jane, so we have a lot of fun with her. She's Jane 1, I'm Jane 2. And we love each other a lot. Yeah.
Well, kudos to you
but
all.
it's Marta Kaufman.
Yeah.
I take my hat off to her.
That's wonderful. I mean, you really luck out when you get somebody in an executive producer writing position that really does honor the characters and tell the truth comedically, rather than, come up with stuff that just feels fabricated and not real and not truthful. So,
can I tell you a little story?
Yeah, of course.
It's a secret. I've never said this publicly. That I basically had a nervous breakdown in the first season. I hated every minute of it. I hated going to work. It was misery. I got to the end of it, and I thought, well, either I quit the business or I see a psychiatrist. And I did. One of those, this, I don't know what that's called.
Yeah, it's got 3 letters or something.
And I went 3 times, and I discovered what had happened. The very first scene of the very first episode, Lily and I are in a restaurant. Our husbands come in and tell us, we're leaving you, we're getting married, we love each other. Abandonment. And the whole rest of the first series was dealing with abandonment. And it triggered. I didn't know what was happening to me, but I went down a dark hole and I couldn't come up until I had to go to Marta on my knees and explain to her. It was really hard that
But
first
isn't
episode.
it
And then after that, it was
interesting
great.
once you identify what is really happening, what's at...
Then it was fine. I had a blast the rest of the time.
Yeah, well, good for you
Yeah.
for trying to figure out what the hell is going on.
I'd already quit the business, and at my age, I couldn't do it again. So I just solved the problem
Yes, yes.
with the help of a doctor.
Who was the first woman director that you ever worked with? Because you definitely you've worked with some unbelievable male directors throughout your career. And I imagine that was especially during a time when there really weren't any female directors.
I've never made a feature film with a woman.
And what about on the series,
In the series, we had a lot of women directors.
Yeah, because they're much more visible in television. Television has paved the way for women directors in a way that the
Yeah.
film industry has not
I did a
embraced.
documentary called "Fuck the Army, Free the Army," and a woman, Francine Parker, she directed that. It's different. You know, you're a lot younger than I am, so you may not remember what it was like to walk on a set, and maybe the script girl was a girl, and there were no other women, and it was so lonely. Oh my God,
And the energy is different.
totally. And now there's grips, women electricians, and directors and camera women, and it's just great. I mean, we're not totally on a par, but it's made so much progress.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's so impressive because, you've traveled the arc of women getting more and more of a foothold in this industry behind the camera, not just in front of the camera. And so you've really carved a path for so many women like myself who became a producer of The Nanny. And, and then the generations that followed me thank me for being the one that helped them, pave the way for them. So, but those movies that you were involved with as a producer were so socially conscious and about subjects that are so interesting, so you, but also, things that speak to me of such relevance. Let's talk a little bit about women's rights, because you've been such a women's advocate and activist. And, you've worked side by side with great women feminists like Gloria Steinem, and you're just, remarkable.
Thank you, Fred.
And my curiosity is, it seems like, we make advancements, but now all of a sudden we find ourselves in a situation where our bodies are being legislated. And I just wonder, from your positioning, because you were really one of the pioneers of women's lib, what does it feel like to you to have seen the growth of women both in the workplace, in the home, and, in the zeitgeist of the nation and the world, to now be put in this situation where we're beginning to see women's rights be compromised? I'm curious what it feels like to make the advancements and then start to see them being gnawed away.
I learned early on in my time as an activist that you can never rest on your laurels when it comes to who has power. What has happened over the last many decades is that very slowly women have begun, we're not there by any matter of means, but we have begun to take power. We've moved into the corporate world, we've moved more into the political world.
Judicial
and cultural. In other words, what we see now, the attacks on us and the clawing back, as you called it, is because we've been so successful. When we see all this happening, we have to remember it's because we've been successful and they are scared to death, and they have every right to be. There's a reason that women have been pushed down and oppressed for millennia. This is not new. This has been from the beginning of civilization. I'm not a sociologist or anything, or an anthropologist, but I think it goes back to hunter-gathering days, you know, when the guys went out to get meat. We got the things that most people ate every day. We got the nuts and the fibers and the berries and the things like that, the tubers. That was women. And men went out and got the protein, which was pretty much individual guy, you know. And we stayed back. Some of us were pregnant. We depended on each other for safe childbirth, and we talked. We sat around and we made the food and we sorted the berries and all that, and we talked to each other about our strengths and our weaknesses and how to survive. I mean, we can just assume that they were kind of like the conversations that we have now when we sit around. And that community is in our DNA. We talk to each other. We tell each other, that's where the poison plants are and the decent water is over there. Don't, you know, we help each other. We're not afraid, as men are, of saying, I'm scared, I need help. Give me a hug, give me help. Men are conditioned to not ask for help. This is a huge strength that women have. We know that we have to stay together. We know to ask for help, and so we get it. Because of our biology, our menses, having children, all the things that happen to us bodily have made us the half of the species that is okay with change. We roll with the punches.
Interesting.
I'm not saying all this because we are better than men. I love what Gloria Steinem says. Women aren't better than men. We just don't have our masculinity to prove. And when we then begin to claim our place, and I think that we're not saying we want to have more. We want to say we just want an equal footing here. We want an opportunity.
A seat at the table.
That we were starting to slowly get there, and that's too scary.
The essence that women bring is so necessary and essential for every major decision-making process that is going to impact everyone on the planet. And we have to, and I think also it's great that you said that the reason why this is happening now is because we have been so successful. So we have to double down on that and make sure everybody knows that we're not going to recede, but move forward.
We have to hold it.
Yeah.
Women, we do need to just always remind ourselves that we're the stronger of the genders. And again, you know, I talked the other night about empathy. We have to have empathy for men.
Yes.
We don't have to get angry. We have to get angry when it's justified. But I don't know. I love men. I feel a lot of empathy for them. But I just remembered a quote that my favorite ex-husband, Ted Turner, said. He said, men have been in power for thousands of years and we fucked it up. And now we have to give it over to women.
Yeah.
And I think that time has come. You know, I've become in the last decade a climate activist. And all of the leadership is women.
I started Green Council here at the Union, and our first mission is to eliminate all single-use plastic water, beverage bottles on sets, and also to demonstrate it in front of the camera, using our industry to be more of an influencer. Because it's nice to entertain, it's nice to tell stories, but we can even do more with the time that we have and the stars that we use on the screen, both on the small screen and the big, in how we impress the viewer and how we can change the way we think. The environmental issues, and look what we've just gone through in Los Angeles
fires.
County. I mean, it was the extreme winds started, ignited the fires, which became an inferno. Then there was torrential rains, mudslides.
It's a perfect storm.
Yeah, it's the stuff that biblical stories are made of.
Yeah. And I remember sitting, because I had the flu at the time, lying in bed watching the fires. I never turned it off. I mean, I just was glued like a lot of people. And I just kept thinking, and this is just the beginning, Fran. It's going to get a lot worse.
And what's at the core of this? Greed. Greed breeds denial.
We can't pretend that we're in normal times. There's an urgency. We have a small window that's closing already in which we can really do something. And what's so interesting is, well, it is interesting. It's also critical to understand. Climate and democracy are the two battles, and we're going to win them or lose them together, because you can't have a stable climate without a stable democracy, and you can't have a stable democracy without stable climate. And it's now or never, literally. So I was trying to communicate it the other night, and I didn't want to get too political, but this is something that has never happened before. Humankind has never been confronted with a small window of time in which we can save civilization or not. And so it's up to us, and it's going to be women who push it over the edge.
Look, you were in therapy. I've been in therapy too. And behavior modification is very hard to do. But the first part of it is acknowledging that you have a problem. And I don't know if the majority of people that are in power on this planet agree that they have a problem. Once you acknowledge that you have a problem, then you can start the arduous process of behavior modification, so you stop destroying what is essential for life. But you have to first recognize you have a problem.
We are privileged, and we can afford to good therapy. And not everybody can. It's something that just kills me. It just kills me.
I know, it should be.
You know why
psychology
I started
101 in
therapist
kindergarten.
4 months ago. I started therapy.
Not for the first time.
Pretty much. I mean, this kind of therapy. This is a psychoanalyst. This is a brain scientist.
I did 10 years of psychoanalysis.
The reason I went, I'm left-brained. And I need to integrate the two parts of my brain. It's weird for an actor to be left. My father was totally left-brained. And so I'm in therapy. You can call it behavior modification, to integrate both sides of my brain.
That's good.
So I do a certain kind of meditation, drawing, painting, all kinds of exercises that you do to rewire the neurons, and you can do it.
Yes. I'm actually very right-brained. You know, I always said that it's too bad that we don't have, like in kindergarten or even preschool, Psychology 101.
That's where it has to start.
Teaching children to be able to say, don't say that to me. It makes me feel small. It's not kind. And use your words differently. You know, to be given tools to express what's inside.
Teach the boys not to be afraid of asking for help.
Yes. And teach the girls to say,
to use their voices.
I'm not going to take that. Thank you.
I mean, one of the worst things is we teach the boy, real boys don't cry. Real men don't cry.
Yeah.
You know, he hits you, hit him back. We have to teach our young kids when they're very young. That's
now,
right.
you grew up in a time when you talk about, you know, the community of women, but wasn't there a time when women were kind of conditioned or described as being more like cats with each other?
Yeah, that was the myth.
Jealous of each other and competitive with each other, and it was all about getting the approval and attention of men at the expense of another woman that you felt like you were competing with. So was that a real experience, or was, because you just said that was a myth?
It was a real experience, and it's a myth that's universal and that that's all the time. And besides, it's changed a lot.
Yes, it has.
Before we had consciousness, before we were woke,
Yeah.
as I said in my speech, I grew up at a time when women were not supposed to have opinions and they were not supposed to be angry. Culturally, the zeitgeist was that once you were grown up and mature, you were an individual who could handle herself. And it was you on your own. It was the rugged individual. It was, don't identify with women. I mean, that's the way I felt until the 70s. I didn't have girlfriends. This is a new phenomenon. And it happened when I became an activist because I left a very kind of hedonistic sort of life. And I came here and I was part of the GI movement. And most of the activists that I worked with were women. And they were different from women I had ever met in my life.
They were authentic to themselves, right?
Well, being with them was like looking through a keyhole at the world we were fighting for. And it wasn't so much what they said to me, because I didn't know anything. It was how they made me feel, and it changed my life. That's what we have to do with the people that we're going to be meeting who voted for him and who now are looking for other alternatives. We have to make them feel welcome. We have to make them feel, we understand. I do. I understand why. I know the anger. And you know what? The main place where they come from is the middle of the country. This was the birth of the labor movement here.
Yeah.
In those factories, and you know, this was the birth of the Democratic Party practically. And and it was Democrats as well as Republicans that pulled the rug out from under them. Of course they're angry. You know?
Yes.
And they used to be able to go to their unions to say, what is this? What's going on? What should I do? Who should I get mad at? And in the community of their union, they would get educated politically.
Yes, and that's very empowering. You know, you can't dismiss that. I grew up in a union neighborhood. It was the electricians' union where I grew up.
Where? What part of the...
Queens, New York.
Okay.
And we always honored the union worker in my family, and I infused that into the ethos of the nanny. And we did episodes about it where it would come up because it was a perfect platform because it was blue collar meets blue blood.
Yeah.
So periodically we would lock horns.
Class warfare.
Yes, exactly. And I always wanted to infuse the ethics and the credo of where I come from and the hardworking people that I wanted to honor. And I feel very proud that I've been, you know, the president of this union because we are a labor union. And labor, when organized, can help fight big business and their perpetual need to marginalize the worker so that their profit margin can be greater.
Yeah. Did you like what I said about the union?
Loved it. Loved it.
And it's true. We manufacture empathy.
Yes, I was so, you know, proud that you had mentioned that in your awards speech because it's here you are talking to a room full of union members, and it was really perfect and poignant. Jane, I cannot thank you enough for joining us today in Actor to Actor. It's so marvelous to be able to hear your insights on so many critically important issues. You have so much to say. You remain still to this day so relevant and so essential. Your voice continues to be important to be heard. And I thank you so much for your honesty and your candor. If anyone has not seen Jane Fonda in 5 acts, you must watch this documentary. It is the most fabulous documentary I've ever seen. And she is absolutely incredibly authentic, and that's what makes it so effective and marvelous. So I encourage you to watch that as well. And I was a fan before. Now I'm like over the moon with you.
Oh.
You are amazing and a force to be reckoned with. And thank God you're still walking and talking, because we need you. So
Thank you, Fran, and thank you for having me on this show, and thank you for being such a good leader of our union, the Screen Actors Guild.
I
was
appreciate
proud to
that.
walk picket line with you.
I
and-
know. Thank you for that as well. You know, when the big stars come out, it makes a difference. That's what the press picks up on, and they certainly did whenever you spoke out on behalf of our battles. So
Yeah, and you did a good job leading us, and I'm really grateful.
we ended up being victorious in a very big way. We'd never achieved quite so much since 1960, when Ronald Reagan was in my position.
Yeah.
And that was when we got residuals and we got health benefits and pension. And we were fighting for different things like AI protections and this new streaming platform compensation. And so thank you for being part of this union for so many years. You're a credit to
1958.
amazing, but beautiful. And thank
you.
you. Thank you for everything. You're wonderful. Thank you.